Look, I'm just a geologist. I like rocks. I love rocks.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Geology Flannelcast. My name is Steve.
Hey there, everyone. This is Chris.
Yep. Hello, it's Jesse. That's me. I'm really sorry.
And who else do we have here?
Hi, I'm Kelly. Thanks for having me back in action.
Again.
Kelly, back for her third appearance on the Geology Flannelcast here. Now, Kelly is the reigning champion for most repeated visits on the podcast, I guess.
Yeah, good, bad, or indifferent.
Guest
I'm back.
speaker.
You got to deal with it.
Yeah. So
Good, bad, or indifferent. You mean great, greater, and greatest.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Truth.
So in
I
case you
appreciate
never,
that.
That Matt Sophie can he can get him back of the line. I'm telling you.
Sophie, what is this? Amateur hour? No.
Yeah, come on.
We love.
No, I
Sophies.
appreciate you guys having me back on. I was very like Chris and I were just talking about. I did get a bit offended when you all talked about how Sophie had more times, more guest speaker roles on the podcast than I had. So I did need to make sure that I one-upped them. So here I am, 3 weeks later, making sure I one-upped them. And here we go.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
I love
do
this,
things out of spite. That's
Exactly.
And Kelly's like, all right, well, I now have to go. See ya.
To be honest with you, Kelly doesn't even want to be here right now. She's just doing this because she has to.
No, I love being on the podcast with you guys. I appreciate you having me back. So thank you.
Anytime. Open invite. You know that. We're talking about women in geology today because it is Women's History Month. So we figured this would be a great time to talk about this topic. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but first, a little bit of timely news here. We've been kind of watched. I know, we've talked about this on the Patreon hangouts that we have before and after the podcast recordings. But we've been talking about this. We've been waiting for this volcanic eruption in Iceland, and it just started. What did it start 2 days ago? As of this recording on Wednesday night. So did it start Monday? I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Monday, so it'd be like the 21st ish. Anyway, so there's a volcanic eruption in Iceland, and there are some YouTube videos that are coming out of this thing. People have been like flying drones around the volcano, and there's like some really, really wild drone footage of this thing, and it's like somebody's like fly there. There's like it's a very non-explosive eruption, very effusive eruption for this volcano.
I was going to say it is erupting, Chris.
It is. Yes, thank you. What?
It's almost like nothing's happening.
Yeah. It's just like very like low key, and we were actually just talking about this before we started recording. It's like parties of people just like hanging out and just like having a good time watching the volcano erupt, and like it's they're like right up there too, like right at the crater. It's just like I don't know. I would have. That's great as long as you're safe, I guess. Whatever. But
yeah, those drones can fly pretty far away from.
Oh, that was what I
where you
wanted to
are.
say. Yeah. So the drone. There's this one video. We'll put this up on the website. There's this one video of the drone like flying like just right above where the lava fountain's coming out, and it's like blobs of lava just missed this drone. They really did really got pretty close to this stuff, but some really, really cool footage. So whoever recorded that drone footage up in Iceland, kudos to you guys. That's
seriously
pretty cool. So what were we saying? We were saying before this the recording started that it's predicted that this volcanic eruption is going to erupt for a couple years.
Yeah, and it's
That's what I've heard, yeah.
it's supposedly going to kick off. They're saying like up to 800 years of eruptions in the area.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess the geophysicists had some data on that to make that assumption, I would assume.
Yeah, it's there to be
they
believed.
just had a big hat with different numbers, and it's like 800 years.
The dartboard,
Yeah, they're asking the magic 8-ball.
I thought it was leading up to it. It was really interesting to see the seismicity along that that valley in that Rift Valley. I believe it's a Rift Valley there. Sorry if I'm speaking out of turn. But it was really interesting to see all the seismicity, and they were talking about how likely a lot of the seismicity was creating pathways and permeability pathways for the dikes swarms that would then fill in those where the seismicity was occurring, and the actual fault, the faults that were slipping, that's where the dikes were then filling in those gaps where the faults were slipping. And I thought that was really interesting. They're like, we might not see any lava at the surface, but there are dike swarms that are filling in where these faults are slipping, and therefore earthquakes are occurring, which is really interesting, especially when you see dikes out in the desert, that you can start to visualize how they'd be forming in real time,
really
which is
cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So the earthquakes were tectonic. It was actual move. It wasn't. Was it the magma that was pushing?
That's a good
crust
question.
open?
I don't know. I'm not a volcanologist, and so that's a really interesting question. Is one then forcing its way through and then forcing the slip to occur, as opposed to, as opposed to it being
Mid-Atlantic ridge.
tectonic.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I'm not sure. You'd
And
assume the activity is then leading to the seismicity as opposed to the other way around.
That's
But-
I just assume that, but you're right in that. Iceland is just so crazy.
I'd be interested if the liquid rock would then lubricate the fault to help it slip more, or would it heal the fracture and make it stop slipping?
Yeah, the viscosity is just.
Yeah, it's super thick. So is it acting like glue and stopping it, or is it acting like a slow lubricant, like a grease, and letting it slip slowly?
I will say, I mean, it looks like from watching that video, I mean, it looks like a basaltic lava, and it's like a Pohoyhoy lava. So that's the least viscous of them all. So,
yeah, and you get the basaltic, the really mafic lava forming because it's a mid-ocean ridge. It's a hot spot, so it's coming from really deep. Just giving you some of the basic intro geo background. So it's coming from deep, so it's really hot, and so that's going to give you that mafic magma coming up to the surface.
So, but are they actually so they're physically like watching like these, you say like these like dike swarms, like you can actually or they have like records of this stuff, you can actually see them like radiating out? Is that what you're saying, Kel? Like they're watching them grow in real time?
No, so the assumption before there was actual lava at the surface was these earthquakes are occurring, and likely what's occurring subsurface is these dike swarms are probably filling in potentially that permeability. They're the chicken or the egg, to be honest. I'm not sure. I think that's a good question, Jesse. But they weren't sure if the lava was going to reach the surface, but that there was a lot of activity below the surface. So when you do see, say, for example, here at the Eastern Sierra Nevada, there's a crazy amount of granitic basement, but then you have these very specifically oriented mafic dikes that cut in certain orientations relative to the stress environment, because the permeability pathway, again, chicken or the egg. So but there was a pathway for those dikes to cut through that granitic basement.
So the granitic basement, is that uplifted?
Yes.
From the Sierra Nevada and all that nonsense?
Where
Nonsense.
That's all orogenic events.
It's all nonsense.
It's just nonsense. Where does the mafic magma come from?
So there's multiple volcanic activities throughout the Eastern Sierra over geologic time. So it really varies. For example, there are dike swarms that you can find to the south of, say, the Garlock Fault, and dike swarms that you can find north of the Garlock Fault, and they're offset by like huge amount of distance. And I couldn't tell you right now, but that's how they know that the Garlock is capable of a huge magnitude earthquake. So there's very old dike swarms throughout the Eastern Sierra Nevada. But for example, and sorry, I'm going to go there, but within the COSO geothermal field, which is the geothermal field that I
That's your
spend most of my
favorite.
time thinking about, there's also rhyolite dikes that cut through that geothermal field, and those are planar, and they follow. So they're planar in that they follow the path of least resistance, and they follow the stress state within the geothermal field. So you're making assumptions about how or why the dikes are oriented the way they are. But because of what you see at the surface, because you see these dikes in this planar orientation, you can make assumptions then about, say, active dikes at depth. So where this volcano is currently erupting, as well as at an active geothermal system.
So is
Does
that,
that help?
past is the key to the present?
Ah,
Well, there was a lot of information there, but I think my question was
Sorry.
just really like super general. Like when you say there's rhyolite, that makes sense. Like you have subduction, say, of the Farallon plate that's leading to this volcanism. Where's the actual magma? Why are you forming the mafic magma? Where is it coming from?
oh, good question. I'm
Is
not
it
sure.
just old subduction? Probably just like a remnant of some sort of subduction or something in the past that we just
Yeah.
won't worry about.
Yeah, sounds good. But something that is really cool about the volcano is just seeing, just anytime you can see geology, like you just said, Steve, that you're looking at, say, in a textbook, or looking what happened in looking at a basalt, say, a basalt flow that's currently not happening. But that's the coolest thing about the earthquake, or I'm sorry, not the earthquake, but the volcano erupting. It's just seeing geology in real time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I know that's like one thing, like when you're teaching students, it's easy to show them like, okay, like here's like, here's how volcanic rocks form. We got tons of footage of this. You can actually, you go to YouTube and there's countless hours of watching just how volcanic rocks form. But that's why I think like why a lot of people have problems like in terms of kind of visualizing and understanding like how metamorphic rocks form, because it's like so deep underground and it's just like conditions that are just so wild and so foreign, you can't physically see it happening. So that's where the volcanic rocks they're pretty cool, because pretty easy to understand. You're just watching it happen, right there at the surface of the earth.
Yep, easy peasy. And like you see a sandstone and you see a beach, you think like, oh yeah, I get it. Like, makes sense. Right.
Glue together beach. There might be a little more going on than that, but
Is it really?
Yeah. But you're kind of right.
I agree to disagree. Anyway. Anywho.
So we'll post I'll post a link up. Make a note of this now. Post a link up on the Flannelcast website if you want to see some cool footage of the drones kind of buzzing past this volcano.
Geology Flannelcast.com.
Yeah, so it'll be under this episode. Where are we at? 86?
Hang on.
87? What number are we at?
We are at 87.
87, episode 87. So
Good number.
click under episode 87.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll post some of that footage up there.
Yeah. Up until 2016, we were at 38.
There you go.
So in the last year, we're
Just
a little less than a year, actually. We're at 87. So
it's almost like we've been doing one a week.
More than
or
doubled it.
a year.
Well, Kelly
It's
did call us
impressive.
out earlier. She said, well, yeah, almost one a week. Like you did miss one at Christmas. But
Of course.
It's been impressive.
I've
I've been impressed with you guys. It's as a listener as well, and I'm sure your listeners feel the same way. It's nice to know, towards the end of the week, I can look it up and have a podcast to listen to. So I know that I appreciate it.
And if you are a Patreon, you can check us out on Patreon. You can listen almost every Wednesday. Live. Pre-edited. Before Chris works his magic.
You can see, how the sausage is made.
Yeah, you can hear all the awkward sign-offs by Jesse. Because apparently Chris cuts them off.
I do at least a dozen. I just do take after take.
Actually, I say I want to cut him off, but I've never actually. I think maybe once. Maybe once I've actually. I gotta sit there, go through.
A couple of times
If
because
Jesse wants to be that awkward, I'll let Jesse be that awkward. Right?
I don't
sometimes
plan
I'll
on being
stop
that
the
awkward.
I'll stop the recording and Jesse be like, goodbye. I was like, I already hit stop.
It's just I'm
Anyways.
like a deer in the headlights.
So, well, we got this. You guys want to hit this other news story, or do you want to get into the meat of the?
No, let's get into
podcast.
the meat of the podcast. I
All
think.
right. So,
Is that all right?
well, yeah.
I don't even know what the other story was.
I didn't
Yeah,
either.
The thing with the
That's-
black
that's-
hole.
Oh yeah, we'll
Oh.
save that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, all right. Something happened with the black hole, but you know.
Yeah, half of my reason for saying I wanted to get into it is because I didn't remember what the other story was.
All right. Well, hey, we have this outline for this podcast, but Steve, what do you know about outlines?
I know nothing about outlines because I don't need to know anything about outlines because the formatting formula sets me up with all my outlines. No, I know Word a little bit. I can make an outline. I'm not going to lie. You have your different headers and up there that says, what style would you like? Like I know a little bit, but just, anyone who's ever had to do a complicated, complex, or even just a long document, it can be a pain in the neck. It can be frustrating. It can be annoying. And the gist of it is you don't need to know a lot of that stuff. You can go to the formattingformula.com, www.formattingformula.com, or YouTube/C/formatting formula for all of your Word documenting needs. They can hook you up. They can help you out, or you can watch they have hundreds of hours of videos on how to do different things with Word, different versions of Word. And they almost every week they send me an email, Steve, here are all the different versions of Word. And every week I'm like, I'm never going to remember this.
And so he just says like Word 2. Like
Exactly. So if the formatting formula is listening right now, which they usually do, feel free to send me yet another email documenting all the different versions of Word. But seriously, all different older version things like that for Mac, PC. I am a PC person myself, but yeah, any problem you have with the formatting formula, they can help you out with a Word document. So check them out. But most importantly, tell them the Geology Flannelcast sent you. Because one day they're going to be like, we love the Flannelcast and all, but I'm just kidding. We're like 80% of their business comes from the Flannelcast at this point. So I may or may not have made up that stat, but either way, formattingformula.com, check them out. We love them. I'm pretty sure they still tolerate us. So check them out.
you are a great spokesperson, Steve. I just want to let you know that. All right.
I'm telling you, right?
And I do feel like your segues, they've gotten very good. I appreciate them. So good on you guys.
There were some that were awful.
Half the time they take me by surprise.
Like, wait, where's he going with this?
I mean, when you're at the bottom, the only way to go is up. So it's all right. So the meat of today's podcast is we're going to talk about some women that played some really interesting and crucial roles in geology throughout time. And some of these people that we've actually talked about them in the past, but I don't know, this is kind of be like a fun episode, kind of bringing them all into a single episode here. Because yeah, I mean, there's some women that played a very, very, strong role in just learning about geology and learning about how the earth works and learning about the fossil record and things like that. And so they've done some really great work over the years.
Yeah, and who's our number one notable historical woman geologist on our outline?
Kelly Blake.
That's right.
I don't think that counts, but I'll take it.
Hey,
Number
if it's
one
on
in
the
field.
outline,
Listen,
it must be true.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
and
Yep.
it's coming from the premier geology podcast too.
That's
so
right.
it's-
So are these, so like you said, the outlines have to be true. So this is like our own mini Wikipedia, and whatever we put into this outline, that's fact from now on. That's
Yes,
how that works.
I
Okay,
like it.
Okay.
So Kelly said, so shall it be true. I guess I don't know.
How about, do you want to start at the beginning or should we start off with how about that we start off with this? Kelly, I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second.
Yeah. do it.
She's thinking, where is this going to go?
Yeah, no, let's go for it.
Which one of these female geologists we're going to talk about was your favorite? Or
Ooh.
is? Do you have a
Hmm.
favorite?
I don't know that I have a favorite. I do appreciate, so we talked about this briefly earlier, but I will start off this conversation by mentioning that I'm not very well versed in either men or women in when it comes to geology and what they know about geology and how they got started in geology. So this was all new to me, but I thought it was a really great exercise. And I'm assuming that doing something similar for men would be useful as well. But because it is Women's History Month, because March 8th was International Women's Day, and the guys invited me to come back on, I thought this would be a really interesting and useful topic to discuss today. So appreciate you guys having me on to chat about it. I did one of the first things that we all noticed, I think all four of us noticed, if you look this up, was that the earliest women that were interested in geology were, not shockingly, everyone assumed they were witches. That's the go-to, I feel like, whenever women are like,
She's a witch.
interested in anything. I don't know what the problem is, but
That was
Yeah.
I saw that. We were kind of texting about that the other day, but I saw that and I was just like, what? You've got to be kidding me. Like, it was just like, yeah, some of these people that were accused of being a witch back in the day was just like
But it's interesting, like some of these royal societies, you know, with the suffragettes and things like that, like the turn of the 18th century into the 19th century, they, you know, they were letting women in for the first time, but even when they were letting women in, it was just horrible policies. Like you can't be married, you have to be a widower. Like if you do get married, then you're out. Like if you know,
you need to focus. All
yeah,
right, on what's
was
important.
like just these rules where it's just like, how does that make any sense at
Well,
all?
I mean, even so at Temple, the woman who started the geology department when she was getting her graduate degree, where at Harvard,
Yeah.
she had to sit physically outside the room and listen to the lectures.
crazy. What?
And that was in like
what
the
decade
40s,
was this? The 40s?
40s, I think.
Oh wow.
Maybe the 30s, but
30s,
30s,
maybe.
40s, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe the 30s.
Wow. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
So
I could barely pass, and I was in the class, you know, when I was at Harvard.
All those years I spent.
Oh yeah.
Was this Calc 2? Is this what the one here?
Hey.
Bring up the PTSD from that one.
I took Calc 1 a lot more than Calc 2, but I've taken them both several times. Anyway, no, we're not going to find the area under the curve in this class today, but no, it is interesting. Like, yeah, if you were smart, you were a witch, or you had to be single and get like barren, like you couldn't have kids either. It was anyway, sorry. It
was like I turned to my husband when I was looking at to add to this outline the other day, and I was like, guess what they thought women, the first women that were interested in geology, guess what they thought they were? And he's like, he thought for a second and he's like, witches? I was like, yep, that's exactly what they thought. So, you know, I guess it's
wait, does that mean he thinks you're a witch? Or...
Maybe. I mean, probably.
If the women are witches, does that make us wizards?
Ooh,
warlocks.
Because we're
Yes,
geologists.
how
Wow, way to take a fun spin on that. That's great.
Just trying to make a negative a positive. That's what I do.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
So
love it.
So I guess we'll go chronologically because that's how this ends up playing out, which I think is useful. And to be honest, I started looking at it and felt like diversity wise, it was probably a bit Caucasian as well, mainly because when I was looking across the board, most of the women that they had documented were white women for the most part, and in Britain specifically. So I thought that was interesting. Plus, it was probably a bit of, just the documentation that is currently occurs, actually, as opposed to say what was actually happening and historically what was correct. So just putting that out there. But I'm going to butcher these names too, by the way. So get ready for that.
Here we go.
Ethedred Bennett. Is that how you'd say that, you think?
Ethelred.
Ethelred. Wow, I was way off. But yeah, first female geologist in Britain. And what's interesting to me is that most of these geologists or women geologists got into it by collecting fossils. Did you guys get into geology by collecting fossils?
No.
Mine was just straight up rocks.
Coal.
No,
Oh, God.
someone
Bring it back.
Stop saying the C word. Someone handed Semenak a box of rocks. That's how he got into it.
That's actually exactly how I got it.
He's still walking around with him like, I guess this is what I do now.
Yeah. Jesse was born and raised in coal country, I'm assuming by some sort of wolf pups.
Wizards and warlocks and
and
witches.
Yeah, and I wanted to be a tree hugger. I was an environmentalist. So yeah, nothing so glamorous, I should say.
Yeah. I had a rock collection, but it was, the minerals, basically a bunch of minerals.
Yeah. I mean, I did have fossils. I did go fossil hunting as a kid, but so maybe that little seed was in there. I don't know.
Well, there's one woman whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce again. I apologize, Jesse. You can do it if you want. But her fossil collection that she had is in the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philly.
Hey, I've been to that place. Know a little bit about that.
Yeah, right. Thought that was neat. Full circle moment.
Did you see that? She had a very unusual first name. It was one letter away from the male name, Ethelred, and they thought that she was a man.
Oh,
He was Ethelred was there's an Anglo-Saxon king named Ethelred. Fun fact. He was Ethelred the Unready.
interesting.
Just
So the only reason those fossils made it in is because they thought she was a man.
No, she got some awards and some like prestigious awards and like memberships to groups and I guess
Good for her. That's awesome.
yeah, they did that because they thought she was a man. They didn't realize that she was a woman.
yeah.
And I have, so what's crazy about that anecdote is there are women within STEM to this day who I specifically know a woman whose name is Andrea, and she went by Andy for a long time, spelled with a Y.
No kidding.
Because
For that reason?
she felt like she was being discriminated against as a woman. So she specifically started writing her name as Andy with a Y, which is interesting. And I also get emails all the time to Mr. Blake.
Huh.
People just assuming that. And my name's pretty androgynous, I guess you could say, but Kelly can be a man or a woman, but I do get Mr. Blake emails pretty frequently.
I know that feeling.
You get
Really?
Miss Thornberg?
Yeah.
I get Stephanie a lot because I spell my name with a
Ew.
PH. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Or is this Stefan? What it like it's Stephen. It's the
we should start calling you Stefan.
Stefan. Yes. What is that? Family Matters, right? That was Urkel's alter
Urkel's, yeah.
ego.
Yeah.
Stefan. There you go.
This is just a side note. The kids were the kids were watching a show. It's like a news show, and Jaleel White was like a side character on it. I was like, listen, I paused and I was like, that's Urkel. Let me tell you about Urkel. And they instantly their eyes glazed over. Anyway, I was
I
and he became
do
cool.
that.
Yeah, he became cool. And like Sarah walked in, I was like, it's Urkel. And she said, did I do that?
That
A great little moment.
is a great catchphrase.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So Ethelred.
Mm-hmm. But that was early. So she was born in 1779 and died in 1845. So
She had a good
it's
run.
pretty, yeah, that was quite a long time ago.
And
I was
that's,
impressed by.
it just Britain sort of they did a lot sort of early on here, especially all of these fossils. So you have here Middle Cretaceous, Upper Greensands. You have these fossils that you find sort of along the seashore, the southern coast of England and whatnot. But so they, if you look at the geologic time scale, a lot of the names we get in the geologic time scale, like the Devonian and
Devonian
and Cretaceous comes from chalk, so like the chalk cliffs, and Devonian comes from Devon, and Cambrian comes from Cymru, which is Wales. So all of these early like fossil collectors and early geologists in England and in Wales like really set the stage for the field of geology, and these women especially, because they're sort of they're doing the labor here of collecting all these fossils and really piecing the early stories together.
And I did read that they did a lot of this work. They didn't get a lot of the credit, but they were also allowed in the field a lot of times because they were good artists and they were good at taking notes and things like that. So, they would sketch the fossils for publications and things like that. And they would sketch the outcrops and take good notes and all the good things that a good geologist should be able to do. But they didn't get any of the credit for it.
And it also looks like that that she, I was looking through this right now, that her fossil collection, we're saying like it's housed at the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia, but it also contains many type specimens. That's kind of like a big deal in the paleontology field. Like, so like basically what a type specimen is like it's like every type, so you have like a species of fossil.
It's like the gold standard. You hold everything
It's the gold
else
standard.
too.
That's a great way. Yeah, everything is described from that type specimen. So that's a pretty big deal if you have a type specimen of a fossil in your collection. That's
let alone many.
Yeah, one let alone many. Exactly. Yeah. So it sounds like Ethelred Bennett was one of the OG geologists back in the day, back in the 1700s. Pretty cool.
And
someone else who came. Go ahead. Sorry, Steve.
I was just going to say there was Martine Bretrau. She's French. Bretrau. I can't pronounce French. Anyway, she was the first
that was
recorded.
A great French accent.
Yeah, I thought I was talking to a native speaker.
Bertheroux.
Yeah, Bertrau. Anyway, she was the first recorded woman mineralogist. She was imprisoned in France on suspicion of being a witch also. But that was in 1642. So predates Ethelred by a little bit.
And back to like steno and like crystallography in the 17th century. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Sorry. All right. Carry on, Kelly. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to say, just coming in under the wire there and born in 1799 was Mary Anning, which I know you guys have spoken about her on the podcast before. I'm pretty certain.
No, they just made a movie about her.
Yeah.
Right.
She sells seashells by the seashore.
That's right. Yeah, that was that tongue twister was made about Mary Anning.
Yeah. Why were did we talk about her on the show?
I think we talked about the movie. Yeah,
we talked about her briefly in the movie with is it Kate Winslet? Yeah.
Kate Winslet, yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
No,
me neither.
I've got it. I just need to watch it.
I feel like my mom has watched it. I think she told me that she did watch it. I believe.
But speaking real quick, another sidebar. Kate Winslet is doing a TV show for HBO, but in the Philly area. And, she has a British accent, but she had to learn the Delaware County accent. She said learning the Delco accent made her so angry she would have to throw things. She said it's like the second worst accent she's ever had to learn, or the second hardest, not worst, second hardest. But she did say Wawa will now be a big part of her life forever. So anyway.
I'm a sheets
right.
girl. Sorry.
Yep.
Well,
Sheets for life.
but yeah,
all right.
Mary Anning.
I tell you what.
Marianne.
Yeah. Whoever
Early
can get
bird
Sheets and
British-
or Wawa to sponsor us wins.
Oh, yeah. Take that.
So we talked about Mary Anning was selling fossils from a young age, from what I remember about that conversation we had, right? Like she started off as a little kid.
Yeah,
And
she
like
was
scurrying around in like some real, and then like putting herself in some pretty precarious like situations. I know, like we told the story on the podcast about how her dog died while they were looking for fossils like along one of these cliffs in England. I forget which section or which region in England they were at, but basically
the South Coast, so it's Jurassic. So
okay.
Ethelred did Cretaceous, which is also on the South Coast in the Weld Basin, but the Jurassic is a little bit to the west of that.
Okay.
So,
But she was hunting for fossils, and she had her, I think it was a Cocker Spaniel or something. I don't know why I remember the dog breed, but couldn't tell you where it was at, but I could tell you the dog breed. But basically, it was kind of sketchy. A lot of like falling rocks, and just rockfall came off the wall, off the cliff, and it took out her dog, and that was
Oh.
yeah, kind of sad story there. But
He's a fossil now. Too soon.
Too soon.
Super too soon.
I guess it happened in the 1800s. I don't.
Mhm.
So yeah, she would sell fossils. It was basically to like support her family. It was a family
Yeah.
business, I think.
Her and her
right?
brother, they
Yeah.
would sell fossils.
So Lyme Regis is the name of the town. I guess it's in Dorset, which is on the south coast there. But the Jurassic, the outcrops where she would get these fossils from is now a World Heritage Site.
Ooh.
Oh, no kidding! How about that? Didn't know that.
That's neat.
Yeah. So, anyways, I guess that Kate Winslet movie that we're talking about, where they talk about Mary Anning, is called Ammonite. In case you're interested in checking it out.
Did they find ammonites? Is that?
It would line up with the.
I would hope so.
That would make sense.
She actually, so the fossils had apparently local sort of names. They would call ammonites snake stones.
Snake stones. I never heard of that one before.
And belemnites they would call devil's fingers. Not really trying to get away from that witch moniker.
No.
Oh, that's right, because she found out, she somehow dissected some of the fossil belemnites, and she's accredited for learning about the internal structure of the belemnites.
Yeah.
I just went fossil hunting last weekend. Found a whole bucket full of belemnites.
Really? Where you at?
They dredged the C&D canal. It's that canal that connects the Chesapeake and the Delaware.
Yeah.
And they just dump all the spoil piles up next to the C&D canal. And it's from the Mount Laurel Formation, about 72 million years old, and it's chock full of belemnites.
Oh, nice.
That's neat.
Yeah. Probably chock full of heavy metals. And
I
all
was
kinds
just
of
about to
stuff.
say,
These maybe
I feel like dredged spoils is probably
Yeah.
not what you want to be.
Jeez.
But you find them up in North Jersey too. They come out of there's a big, I think it's actually called Bound Brook or Big Brook, something like that. But there's a river and it cuts through the late Cretaceous, and just belemnites just fall out of the clay there. It's pretty neat.
Belemnites. How about that?
Belemnites. They look like
Bullets.
Bullets. Straight shelled.
Huh.
Straight shell, nautiloid looking things. So Mary Anning, she first described the Ichthyosaurus, the dinosaur-ish thing.
I think so. First,
Plesiosaur. That's the one I was.
It had first icky as well.
Yeah.
Well, first icky skeleton is what it said.
Mm.
From my very thorough research, that's what it said.
Nice.
When she did a pterosaur too, man, she had them. She was finding them all.
Yeah. And coprolites?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I really just wanted to bring it back around to witches and wizards,
I see
because bezoars are used in Harry Potter to save Ron's life.
No
And apparently
spoilers.
coprolites were known as bezoars. They used to be known as bezoars, apparently. But in Harry Potter, I didn't realize that Harry puts a bezoar, which apparently is a coprolite, into Ron's mouth to save his life. Is it really a
Ugh.
coprolite? Right?
Does
Yeah, I
that-
guess there is
Hey.
a part where, you know, I think it was the first class in potions class. Snape says, "Mr. Potter, where would you look if I asked you to find a Bezor?" I don't know,
Again, the
sir.
accent is
Yeah.
impeccable. Loving it.
Right?
yeah.
God rest his soul.
Yeah,
Oh.
right. Jeez. Love
Yeah,
it.
One piece.
A
Oh.
bezoar just it just means small stony concretion. So bezoars, I think, are a little bit different than coprolites.
Right. That's like the stone from the stomach of an animal, right?
Yeah.
It's a little
Gastroliths?
different.
Yeah. So it'd be a gastrolith,
Mm.
whereas a coprolite is fossil poop.
I used to love teaching about coprolites. They'd be like,
Yeah.
"What do you think this is?" And they'd be like, holding it.
Give it a lick like it's secret salt.
So I think we've. I was just holding one today. Actually, it's funny you guys should mention this. Anyways, this day in the life. So do you guys? Did we talk about the story on the podcast? We might have hit on this when we had Tim Davis on the podcast. But where the name Copperlight comes from?
No.
Are you guys familiar with it? It comes back to the old Cope and Marsh dinosaur wars.
Oh.
Copperlight.
okay.
Marsh.
Yes, we did talk about this. Yes.
Yeah, Marsh named Copperlights after Cope, and it infuriated Cope, which I think we all agreed, like, if somebody would name fossilized poop after any of us, we'd be honored, right?
Yeah,
So
but
I don't know why Cope was so angry over that, but
yeah, I think that might have been a Patreon extra, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah,
oh, was okay.
Yeah.
They were all kind of
see, so you just got to be a Patreon, and you get all these wonderful stories about dinosaur.
Oh, that's
poop.
right. We did one on the fossil wars. Cope and Marsh, the fossil wars.
Yeah.
These guys hated each other, but fun story.
All right, so on to Flo, as I call her. She liked to be called Flo.
Flo. Yeah, second woman to earn her PhD in geology in the U.S.
Florence
First
Bascom. Oh, we should say her name. Not
Oh,
just
sorry.
Flo.
I just assume
job.
everybody knows who Flo is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just your name, your price tool.
So I just want to add this real fast, before I don't mean to cut you guys off, but the first woman to earn their PhD in geology in the United States was Mary Holmes. She got a PhD in geology from the University of Michigan in 1888.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
fun little fact there, but yeah.
Nice.
So Florence Bascom. We're not talking about Mary Holmes right now.
Mary Hall.
She's not on the outline. Okay.
Oh, she went to Michigan, where Florence Bascom, she got her degree at Johns Hopkins. Come on.
Oh, that might anger a lot of people while you saying that, but
Nah. You're right. Sorry.
The first
Alright.
woman hired by the USGS, which is pretty awesome. 1896.
There's a local connection in that she taught for a while at Bryn Mawr, which is
Did
right
she
outside
really?
Philadelphia,
Yes.
and she was one of the. She basically, she didn't. I don't know if she named it, but the Wissahickon schists. So she did a lot with mica schist and the Wissahickon schists, which is the sort of the main metamorphic bedrock in southeastern Pennsylvania. She did a lot of work on that.
how about that?
Or
That's
like
really interesting.
specialty.
Now,
That's interesting. I didn't see that.
so
That's awesome.
the USGS is only like, well, not only, but it was like 16 or 17 years young.
Yeah, when was it? I'll look that up real fast.
It was 1879.
1879. Wow.
So she was hired in 18. Shoot, I just had it.
1896.
1896. Yeah. So about 17 years after the USGS. Not to say that that's a good or bad thing, but you know, the USGS was still relatively new at the time. So
Yeah, for that era, that's pretty good.
her mother was a suffragette.
I do like this parenthesis, this parent thing we
Right.
have in parenthesis.
Who's gonna say it?
The British Geologic Survey did not hire their first woman until the 1920s.
Did I type that, Kelly? I might have been. That might have been in one of my moods.
There's commentary after that.
It says, "Take that, you backwater Brits."
Backward.
Backward Brits.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway,
Her mother was a suffragette. Her father was a professor. Oh, and the president of University of Wisconsin. Huh. Yeah. So, she founded the geology department at Bryn Mawr.
yes.
I didn't even see that. Sorry.
Yeah, she left the Ohio State University to go found the Department of Geology at Bryn Mawr College.
Which is
Where
funny
is
because I
Bryn
think
Mawr?
It's in Bryn Mawr.
It's in Bryn Mawr.
It's like just outside of Abington. Like,
Thanks, Philadelphia.
No, yeah, it's
people.
right across the bridge from Manioc.
Oh, okay.
If you go across
It's
the
part
road
of the
there.
it's part of the what they call the main line here in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It's like the high dollar area. So
Oh,
Yeah.
uh,
I was
I-
gonna say
never
the
mind what I
fancy
said. I
side of
was
the
wrong.
tracks.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Bryn Mawr is actually Welsh for Big Hill, roughly. And so it's on the hill there going up to the city line Ave.
yeah, it's
Um,
partially in Delaware County.
is it?
Yeah,
Oh, I thought it was all Monco. Huh.
I think there's parts of Ardmore, Bryn Mawr.
Oh,
Um,
you're talking about the main line in general.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Don't try to lay claim.
I was just thinking Bryn Mawr. So Bryn, what were we just saying? Bryn Mawr,
Little Hill.
Big Hill.
The
Okay.
fancy side of the tracks.
I pay
The other
attention.
side of the Schuylkill.
She spent
Florence-
most of her
Things are-
adult.
Oh no, this is the point I was going to make. She founded the geology department. I'm pretty sure her whole time there, she was only ever considered an adjunct because she was.
wow.
But Bryn Mawr is it's an all women's school. I think.
I don't know if it is.
Is it co-ed
Still.
now?
I think it might be co-ed now.
Used to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was historically an all women's college for a long time.
But it's funny that as a woman professor, she was only ever considered an adjunct.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I think undergrad is still all women. Yeah. No, yeah, co-ed graduate school. Undergrad is.
Oh, wow.
But they're affiliated. They have a tie-in with University of Pennsylvania now too.
Yeah, it's there's a million universities near Pennsylvania has, or the Philadelphia region has more colleges and universities than 100-mile radius than like anywhere else on the planet other than like Oxford.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Go Philly.
Go Philly. Yeah.
That's what I say every morning. Look in the mirror.
Go Philly.
Phil.
Let's go. Let's do this today.
I watched Rocky last night, so I got nothing.
Yeah,
Did you really?
We were
Yes.
texting. I feel like we were texting about like the volcano, and Steve's like, "I'm watching Rocky 1."
No, we were texting about skydiving.
Oh yeah, that was a
Mishaps.
side
That
note.
was-
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know what's sad is and we've watched a lot of things during the last year to, because there's endless amounts of time. And I've never seen all the Rocky movies, and we probably should have done that in the last year.
Oh, geez.
You had the time.
Well,
Put
was
it on
nice.
the to-do list.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was nice having you on the podcast, Kelly.
Yes,
It's
time to
great
go.
seeing you. We'll have Sophie on next week, okay?
Rude.
And that'll be the first thing we ask him, and I bet I know his answer.
How many Rocky movies have you seen? Yep. Check the box. Moving on.
Well,
Sorry.
first of all, how many Rocky movies are there?
There's 5, and then there's the 2 Creed movies. Is that
There you-
right?
oh, nice
Oh,
work.
wow.
I'm impressed. Yes.
That was pulled out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Mainly because I feel like Rocky 5 got a lot of chatter, and I don't remember anybody talking about Rocky 6. So
No Rocky 6. Rocky
okay.
5, Tommy Gunn. Hey, I ain't hear no bell. So yeah, I'm doing all the accents today, fellas.
Really good.
Good.
I like it. Yeah.
All right.
All right, back to our historical / notable female geologist.
Yeah, this next woman, so Marie Tharp, 1920 to 2006, so passed away relatively recently, but first geologic map of the Atlantic Ocean, and really helped drive the mid-ocean ridge, as well as the theory of plate tectonics and the acceptance of plate tectonics, which is big time. That's really neat.
I had my Marie Tharp mug. I have a Marie Tharp mug, and I just took it into my office.
Darn it. What is it just her face? What's on there?
It's like a picture of her in the office, like she has a cigarette in her hand, and she just looks like she's done with dealing with the men in the office.
Nice.
She put up with a lot of garbage, essentially.
Yeah.
I was reading that she took these depth soundings from these
Submarines.
one was from a ship called the Atlantis. They acquired these depth soundings between 1946 and 1952, and a profile from a Navy ship called Stuart from 1921. But she put this all together, and she had like these like full profiles extending across the entirety of the Atlantic Ocean of depth soundings. And that sounds like that task alone, like, geez, oh me's, like,
and she did it all by hand.
Yeah, no computers or anything. Like, how do you plot that? How do you know where that ship is relative to anything else? And then, oh my goodness, that's impressive.
How do you have enough room to lay out all that paper? Because it was paper back then.
Yeah, she did all those soundings. She plotted out by hand, which is
impressive to say the least.
Yeah. So, and she was one of the first ones that pushed for, for what that time I think it was still called continental drift, but she was still pushing for that.
She met Alfred Wegener in a bar.
I'm
kidding. I made that up.
At all, but but the plate tectonics at this point was still a controversial theory, and
plate tectonics wasn't even proposed yet, because her work helped Harry Hess come up with seafloor spreading, because she helped show there was the mid-ocean ridge, which then they figured out wasn't just a mountain, it was a volcano, right? Do I have that? I might have that wrong.
No, I think you are correct.
I mean, she basically identified the mid-ocean ridge, and she believed that it was a rift valley.
They
went on, and then that's
because the
V notch, or the V shape.
V notch,
that it made. But yeah, at that time, some of her coworkers didn't like the fact that she was, they didn't agree with her findings, and this is great. And some people actually they still favored the expanding Earth hypothesis.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I don't really know too much about the expanding. I guess it's as simple as that the Earth keeps on growing and growing and growing.
I think
sounds correct.
Thank you, Kelly.
I think that's what that was sort of the Earth is like expanding like a balloon, and that's why the continents are drifting apart, is because the surface is expanding. Here's in the I'm posting a link.
I believe that before flat Earth.
Yeah. And so this and maybe we'll put this on the website here. I'm just going to skip over the flat Earth. The link for this mug, because the profits from it support the Earth Science Women's Network.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome. I was going to ask where you would go about buying one of those mugs. So
I just assumed he painted it himself at Color Me Money. Guess not.
All right, so that's there's Marie Tharp. Anything else about Marie Tharp? She's obviously like a rock star in her field. That's
Is that a pun?
Yes.
Good one.
Ew.
It's a good one.
All right.
So this next one I don't know.
So it's getting into the part of the outline where these women are more modern, I suppose, women who have paved the way for women in the geosciences. So Claudia Alexander, notable member, it says, of the Association for Women Geologists, but worked at the USGS, worked for the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. And I'm not a planetary geologist, but I guess she was the final project manager on a mission that discovered 21 new moons of Jupiter.
Whoa.
It seems useful.
Yeah.
Useful information for sure.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna go off this a little bit. I was just actually reading about another woman. Sorry, we're gonna get into space a little bit, but you said NASA and planets, so Vera Rubin, who she was an astronomer, but like she helped essentially the idea of, she was born in Philly, so that's also a tie-in here. She helped with identify the idea of dark matter.
Whoa.
She was studying galaxies, spiral galaxy rotation, and sort of identified something about angular momentum with them that helps essentially provide evidence for dark matter. But there's a massive, she passed away in 2016, but there's a massive telescope in Chile named after her now, the Vera Rubin Observatory.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
That one in Chile, is that the biggest one?
It might be right now.
World?
I feel like they're always building a new one. It actually,
Or at the time of its construction,
it's gonna see first light this year, and then it'll start collecting data next year.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think right now it might be the largest, but they're building that really big one on Hawaii, which I think is called like the really big. They give them goofy names like the really big telescope
Mhm.
and the very large.
Are they still building that one in Hawaii? I know it was on.
What island was it on?
It's on Mauna Loa. Yeah, they're running into a lot of issues with like,
It was being built on like sacred land or something.
yeah, and they had like made agreements that they wouldn't build anymore, and then they said, well, we're just going to build this one, and people are
And it's the
upset.
biggest one ever, but that's not a big
but
deal.
then they
Yeah,
said
exactly.
like, but we took the other one offline, we're getting rid of that one. So, and they're like, well, I don't know if it's a 1-for-1 thing. You said you weren't going to build anymore. So
Yeah.
you run into sort of, it's a delicate issue.
hmm But Claudia is the last woman on our list here who is no longer with us.
Yeah. Moving in the present. Oh. So our Patreon Frank just said he thinks they may be moving the telescope to the Canary Islands off of Hawaii.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Yeah. All right. Where are we at now?
We are
Marissa?
Marsha?
Marsha.
Marsha.
Yeah, Marsha.
Sorry.
McNutt. Yeah. Marsha McNutt. So
We had the first woman who was in the USGS, and that was in the late 1800s. First female deputy director, 2010.
Whoa. Very cool.
Yeah.
Skipped over the 20th century.
Yeah.
Yep.
we only got a 1-hour podcast here. So
no, I'm just saying to get a deputy director.
To get a
114
woman in that
years or
role.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And first woman of the president of the American National Academy of Sciences, 2016.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
That's
a
awesome.
big deal. That's a big deal. Just to let alone just to be a member of the, National Academy of the Sciences, let alone the president. Like, my goodness.
Oh,
That
you're not a
is
member, Chris?
a title. I have not been invited yet, but when they want to invite me,
Jesse and I are members. Weird.
oh.
Actually, I avoid their phone calls.
How do you become a member? I didn't realize this was such an exclusive thing.
I have no idea. I just wanted to bust Chris's chops.
Yeah, I think it's based on your body of work. So like, you gotta be a big deal.
Yeah. You need a Wikipedia page.
Yeah. So
Wow.
become a fellow.
So I'll just go on there, and so I need to create 3 Wikipedia pages. Is that what you're telling me?
Mm-hmm.
one for each of you, and then that's the ticket.
Well, and you have to mention this podcast.
And then I'll just,
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
I'll hold my
course.
phone and just wait for that call.
Exactamundo.
Any
That's how that
minute
works.
now. Any minute.
It's
get there,
getting
Jesse.
into
Look at you, you're like, I'm just gonna move on now. Nothing else really to say about this.
Yep. Sorry.
But
it's
she studied geophysics at Scripps Institution. Scripps is the one on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I don't know why
San
I always
Diego, right?
Yeah, I don't know why I
Yeah.
always mix up Woods Hole and Scripps.
Woods Hall's New England.
Massachusetts.
I know.
Scripps is in La Jolla.
La Jolla.
I always want to say La Jolla. La Jolla.
So it looks like.
Friend of the podcasts.
Yeah.
Temple grad.
Went there for her
Yeah.
PhD.
I was gonna say that's where Alyssa went, right?
Yep.
Neat.
She just defended, I want to say last year. I don't know. Time is a flat circle with this whole pandemic.
It was definitely during the pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because it was
right-
all virtual.
Yeah. And she was right about to have a baby. And it was a whole thing. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. 1977, the year Chris was born. The Association for Women Geoscientists was founded.
You're just full of just incorrect facts about me, mostly just about me. Anything that Steve says about me, just assume that it's just incorrect.
That was the year Star Wars came out, where I would say that one of the strongest characters in that movie was a woman, Princess Leia. There you go.
Good tie-in.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I'm gonna bring it
Thanks.
back around.
Yeah.
I thought this was impressive because 1977, that was quite a long time ago. So to have this association stood
Yeah.
up back in 1977 was that seemed like it was a pretty awesome date, and I was impressed by that for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot of women's liberation stuff going on in the 70s. So that is awesome, but I'm not surprised that it was in the 70s. Because in the 80s, not to say things went backwards, but they didn't go, the momentum slowed. Let's put it that way.
I don't know, Steve, you could probably talk more about the 80s than anybody else here. So see what I did there?
No, there was some.
Turned it around.
You saw Rocky 1 in the theater.
Rocky 1 is 45 years old. I did not see it in the theater.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm not that old yet. But no, you guys were at least born in the 80s. Kelly, were you born in the 80s or in the 90s?
I was. Nope.
Okay.
84.
There you go.
I'll admit it. Yep.
82.
85.
I was gonna say 85.
Yeah. He's the baby. No, I was
Youngin.
born in the 70s. So you can all take that as you will.
You know more about the 80s than anyone else here.
Exactly.
So,
I remember the 80s, man.
yeah.
You know, I remember when WrestleMania was still real and not fake.
My goodness.
I remember-
No, man, words.
Yeah.
I've recently gone down a WWE rabbit hole on YouTube, and it's amazing.
Back in my day, it was called the WWF. All right.
Well, yeah, I
It had nothing to do with the World Wildlife Fund.
Anyways, all right, what do we got next? What do we
Yes.
got next? How about some statistics about women in undergraduate studies? So according to the American Geoscience Institute, 40% of geoscience undergrads are women, and 42% of graduate level students are women as well. So a little bit more women, or a little bit of higher of a ratio of women in grad school compared to undergrad. But
It does there. If you look a little bit more into the data, there is a disparity between master's degree and PhD. It does.
Okay.
That number does drop off if you go to the PhD level, but yes.
Interesting. And then so I guess some other groups. Kelly, what do you know about the the Women in Geothermal.
Oh.
Are you a member of
All right,
this?
so
group?
this is a plug, I guess.
Yeah, this-
Yeah.
So this is
Alright.
me plugging my own stuff. So I appreciate you giving me the time. So in 2015, Women in Geothermal was stood up, and there was a what was formerly known as the Geothermal Resources Council and now known as Geothermal Rising had a meeting in Las Vegas, and this is where Women in Geothermal kicked off.
Can I just say
and we're
that
now go ahead.
WING is an amazing acronym for this.
Yeah.
I am
Yes.
I've
Right?
always I'm trying to
Yeah.
always think of acronyms, and I'm the worst at coming up with them. But WING is very good because it's very easy to remember,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
that's awesome.
it is, and it lends itself to really nice marketing and very nice looking marketing information because Wing is easy to make look nice, I guess
Yeah.
you could say.
Yeah. Okay,
but
so
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I agree with you. I think that it's a great acronym. So Women in Geothermal, also known as WING, was founded in 2015. For up until 2020, the global team, which ran really all the global initiatives that WING was in charge of, was in New Zealand. And then last year, around this time, a little bit later, so in May, the US team ended up gaining the role of the global team. So I'm currently the global executive for WING. And what that
Wow.
means is that
Sounds
I
very
oversee
important.
it is, oh yeah. I oversee the initiatives that WING is currently working on globally. And our team then oversees all the country chapters. So we have 34 country chapters, so across the globe.
Wow.
We have over 1,800 members. We have members from 74 different countries. And what we're striving for is for more members. Always, it's free to sign up. So I would put the plug in to go to our website, womeningeothermal.com, and become a member. It's free to do. We send along newsletters every once in a while. We definitely don't bug you too much. We've been putting on a monthly mini symposium is what we've been calling it. So about 30 minutes worth of a certain topic, since we're all living in the virtual environment. But really what we're trying to do is gain members, specifically men and women is what we're trying to gain. We're at about 27% men right now, and we'd really like that to increase as much as possible. So if you're out there and you're interested in hearing what Women in Geothermal have to say, man or woman, we'd like you to become a member. So go ahead and visit our website. But we're there to promote the education, the professional development and advancement of women in the geothermal industry. And this is something that the US team is currently the global team, but it'll rotate then in 2023, it'll rotate to a new team. So we're responsible right now, and I'm only the global executive for another couple of years, sadly, and I lose my really awesome title. But
Not just, it's not a regional executive, not a country
Global.
executive,
Oh,
global executive. That's
Yeah, I mean,
you could
title
move
right
up
there.
to become like universal,
oh,
Right.
intergalactic
intergalactic executive.
Now, no, but in all seriousness, Kelly, I knew you were involved with the Women in Geothermal.
Yeah,
I had no idea your role was this huge.
Yeah. I don't
now I'm
think
sweating. I'm intimidated.
and I
We've
didn't
Kelly-
realize
As you
that-
should be.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, I'm always, but I didn't realize Wing was so large.
Yeah, 1,800 members. That's huge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, obviously not huge enough, but that's a lot bigger than I thought. When I think of geothermal energy, I think, yes, it's a big deal. It's important, but I kind of think of it as like a little niche thing ish, but I guess not.
Well, what we have going for us is it is free to become a member. We are the largest geothermal association in the world currently. Other geothermal associations, you have to pay to become a member. So we do have the free factor working for us.
Sell yourself short.
But it's still really neat. It's been really great for me within the industry. You do, as a woman within STEM industries, you end up spending a lot of time with with mainly guys. And that's just because of the ratio of men to women within the industry, that you end up usually working on teams which are mostly men. And this group, so Women in Geothermal, it's given me an avenue to network with more women than I probably ever would have in my day-to-day life, and because of the projects we work on. So for that, I think it's done such great things for me in my own career. But the other initiatives that Wing Global is working on is what's called a Future Leaders Forum. So we have 17 women from across the globe, again, who are being trained in to become future leaders. So we're training them in a bunch of different topics throughout the year. So it's a different topic every other month. We go through a certain amount of leadership training, and then they talk about the previous month or the month after, onward and so forth. So this is our first year putting on the Future Leaders Forum, and that's been really rewarding and great. And we're likely going to be soliciting for the next year pretty soon here, again, through our website and our social media, if you're interested. We'll
post that on our website.
Thanks. We also, something that Wing does offer is training. So we train, we have a couple of people from New Zealand who come in and train companies. So coming in to talk to companies about their biases, even their biases that they're not aware of, and how that could be affecting women within their own company, to ensure that, and even at this point, it is gender specific as opposed to, say, diversity specific in persons of color, say, for instance. But I think we just had a El Salvador group of men graduate from the wingman training. And that was a really cool experience just to see.
That's a great name also.
What'd you say?
That's a great name.
Wingman training. That's
Wingman
awesome.
Training.
Yeah, we actually call it the Wingman Special Task Force. So it makes it sound really important.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was really amazing to see that. Actually, the El Salvador team on International Women's Day, they did the graduation of these men through the Wingman Special Task Force training. So that was really neat to get to see. And lastly, we're always, as much as possible, we're trying to connect people within the geothermal industry. So like I said, check us out on womeningeothermal.com, as well as Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Seriously, very impressed.
Yeah.
I wish
I appreciate you guys.
We should have started the podcast with this.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you guys giving me the platform to talk about that, because it's
absolutely.
something I've worked on quite a lot in the last 5 years or so. And so it's great to be able to share that with a broader audience than, say, just the geothermal industry. So thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We reach literally tens of people. So
Exactly.
So well, we got a question here from one of our Patreon sponsors. Kelly, you know Maddie. Maddie wants to know,
I do.
what advice do you have for young women starting in the field of geology who want to have a career in geology related career? And also, can you recommend some resources that will provide a community for women geologists?
It's a great question, Maddie. So something that has been interesting from my time spent in Women in Geothermal is realizing that a lot of the women that are involved in, say, a STEM industry where there aren't a lot of women in that industry, do have a certain personality trait where they just kind of don't give a crap about anything and just go in and are willing to be coachable, I guess is a good way to say it, and just absorb all information. So being very eager to learn, being ready to learn, being very, what would the correct word be? I guess very humble about how much you don't know. And I think that goes for any gender across the board, is being ready and eager and willing to learn, sets you up for success down the road. I know that or from my perspective anyway, when you're very honest about what you do not know and you are ready to ask questions and learn as much as you possibly can when you don't know the answer to said question, I think that you gain people's respect pretty quickly, and therefore it sets you up to gain more knowledge. And I think that's something that I've learned along the way, is being inquisitive and seeking knowledge and continuing to be, even in your current career, continuing to seek knowledge and to continuing to learn and be a learning person is important. For women who are interested in getting into geosciences, there is a vast amount of resources available to you. And I always tell people that are looking to get into any industry to not be scared to bug people. As the four of us, and I'm sure all of you, are now sitting on the other side of the professional desk, where when you were a student and you were bugging people and you felt like you were bugging them too much, you really do just lose track of all of the things you need to be doing as a professional in your day-to-day life. So that's something I continue to tell any student, is to just bug people, bug the professionals that you're looking to chat with or you need information from, or I wouldn't say bug them, say like every hour on the hour or something along those lines. But if it's been a week, then it's fair game, in my opinion, for sure. So don't be shy and bug people.
I tell my students, I'm like, if I don't respond to, I will say I've gotten much better about email this semester, but if you don't hear back from me, like send me a follow
up. Yeah.
I'm like, don't be a jerk about it, but like, just send a follow up. Like, I will appreciate that, because your email, just things get shunted down. But yeah, don't be afraid to speak up, and don't be afraid to take chances on opportunities. If there's something that sounds halfway interesting, like just go for it. It's now I'm a guy, so like my advice.
That is true. You don't know.
Yeah, like it's my regret as an undergrad. It's something I didn't learn until I was well into graduate school. It was just like the ability to ask questions and sort of take chances on opportunities and just do things. That's how you learn, is by doing.
Just imagine where you'd be if you did have this skill set in your early undergrad. I mean, you learned it, and look at you. You're co-hosting the along with us the premier geology podcast.
That's true.
Out there, so
I wouldn't have learned lessons.
He'd be doing it solo.
He'd be doing it solo.
I would have graduated in under 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. That's great advice. A lot of times people are just, just kind of timid and just, just nervous. And what's the worst that people say? No, that's it. Okay. Big deal. Move on.
And that's the thing. Like, I'm super timid. I'm still timid, but oh gosh, being on the other side now as someone teaching, I beg of you to ask questions.
Yes.
Please interact with me. Just, you can tell me about your day and I'll be happy. Like, don't be timid. I want a reason to expand on topics. And like, oftentimes when students ask questions, this is just general advice to students. Like, when they ask questions, it jogs something in my memory that I've forgotten or maybe not expanded enough on. And it's perfect. And I wish, as students starting out, men and women, just don't be afraid to speak up.
Yes, agreed.
And it then lends itself to other people, right? So that's what this all benefits in the end, is if you're then brave enough to ask the questions and potentially, for everyone in the room to realize that you don't know exactly what you're talking about all the time, then that other person who maybe wasn't as brave or wasn't as willing to speak up realizes it's not as big of a deal and is willing to then speak up themselves. And that's where this starts to, that type of speak in action, I suppose, then lends itself to other people who aren't as inclined to ask questions and be as forthcoming in that way to do the same thing. And it's useful, and it benefits everybody in the end.
It can like snowball, you get one person to ask one question, and like Kelly said, like, oh, I can ask a question, I can and yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
We took this, and this is a bit of an aside, but at a Geothermal Rising conference, Wing usually has a training session, a quote unquote training session, where we talk about a specific topic. And one year it was imposter syndrome, which is kind of starting to get a negative connotation at this point, but this was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And this woman was giving the talk and was chatting about imposter syndrome, and asked people in this very large group just things that they maybe lie about, or things that they say that they don't necessarily, or they feel that they don't necessarily, is not actually the truth. So someone stood up and raised their hand and stood up and said something like, I don't know why I'm saying it this way. I stood up and said, I just feel like I don't do enough, or I feel like I'm not doing that much. And this woman was like, I know that Kelly put in a lot of effort to get this done. And a gentleman who was in one of the working groups that I worked in admitted, he was like, I would have never gotten up and said anything in front of this group of my peers the way that some of these other people had. And my example is just one of many that people gave. But the more people started talking, the more other people stood up and admitted things that they kind of say out loud that maybe are self-deprecating and stuff like that. But it was just an interesting experience in a professional environment. And but it opens the door for everyone to realize that they kind of just feel like they're fudging their way through this entire thing, and it's gonna work. This is all gonna work out if you just keep working your hardest and keep an open mind and learn as much as you can.
Yep. Keep moving forward. Fake it till you make it.
Yep.
Still doing that.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Well,
all right.
We were doing really well.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. That's
thank
terrible.
you, Bill Belichick. I appreciate
No.
Okay.
Wow. All right. Now I really feel bad.
Did you see, this isn't a complete aside, but did you see the article recently where Ben Affleck in Gone Girl refused to wear the Yankee hat? Did you see that story?
I have seen that. Yeah.
Was hilarious. He's a Red Sox fan, and they were like, David Fincher was like, you need to wear this hat for this shot in Gone Girl, and he battled with him. He's like, I'm not going to do it, and he wouldn't wear it, and he wore a Mets hat in the end. He wouldn't wear the Yankee hat.
Jeez.
I respect that.
I do.
Yeah, right?
I respect that as well. Like,
Makes sense.
good for him. That's awesome. And yeah, but I'm just trying to think if somebody asked me to wear a Mets hat, if I would. No, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I don't think I could. Whatever. It depends. It depends how much money we're offering for this. But well, anyways, I think that that's probably a good spot to end this podcast. But thanks, Kelly, so much for coming on this week. It's always a pleasure. You got an open invite whenever you want to come on and talk about whatever you want. All right.
Yeah, honestly. And
you need to get something off your chest. You come on here. All right.
Yeah, it's just going to turn to me ranting, coming on and be like, listen, I got a bone to pick with the transportation department. I don't know.
So, well, thanks so much, Kelly, for being here. We appreciate it. Anytime you want.
Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome.
yeah, seriously,
I appreciate
absolutely.
you guys having me on.
This was lovely, and I learned a lot about women in geothermal. That's awesome.
Me too. Oh, good. Okay. Not that. I already knew about that.
Yeah. But I think just like to end and say like we gave a brief smattering of people. There was obviously a lot of women we overlooked, and there's a lot of women who have been overlooked. I was thinking of I was at a lunch a few years ago at I think like a Northeast GSA meeting, and the speaker was talking about like an early pioneer in like paleontology or micropaleontology or something, and she essentially got no credit because she was just like the assistant, but she did all the work and she identified everything, and it was the early 1900s, and so just a lot of women have been overlooked, and it's
unfortunate.
yeah.
So you're absolutely right, Jesse. There's a million women that we haven't mentioned, and it doesn't mean they didn't make the list. It's just unfortunately there's too many who aren't on the list who should be on the list, and so we will have to do better.
So real fast, I like this question here that just came in on Patreon. So our other Patreon friend Maddie, not that
we have two Maddie patrons.
Madeline.
Madeline. Yeah.
Anyways, Maddie asked, Kelly, have you had any good female mentors in your career?
Yes. So I was lucky enough to, so I went to Slippery Rock University of Pennsylvania for my undergraduate degree, and within the department there, the professors, there was a female professor who gave me the opportunity to go in the field for the first time, and because I was also playing soccer at the time, I was pretty ancillarily involved in the geology department and a lot of the field trips. But I went to New Mexico and hiked around on some mountains and identified some rocks, and it was awesome. And it likely then changed my perspective toward what it was I wanted to actually do. So that her name was Patricia Campbell, and I appreciate that opportunity that she gave me as an undergraduate student. And then when I was at Temple University, we had some really strong women within the geology department there at Temple University. And it was great because it was someone you could go to for the most ridiculous questions. And I guess they're not ridiculous, but and I guess this is a weird topic, but as a guy going to a say conference, the expectation of what potentially you're supposed to be wearing, geology conferences are a bit more relaxed than say probably other conferences, but wearing the coat and just your attire and how to be professional at a conference as a woman is something I just didn't quite know. So I remember going to Alex Devatsis and Dr. Devatsis and just talking to her before I left. And that seems like such a small way that she helped me. But I remember just chatting to her in general about those type of questions, about being a woman professional and her experiences. And she really helped then shaped me and helped my path, I guess, helped me with my path toward my current career, asking her about her doctorate degree and how she felt about getting her PhD, which I automatically steered away from. No, I'm kidding. That's not true. I'd say that those two women stick out to me the most, but there were very strong women in both departments that I was in. So that's a great question, Maddie.
Yeah, and that's really important. Just asking, just something like, just like you said, like, just what's the attire at a conference or something like that. You might think it's trivial, but that's really important.
No, I remember it when you said it. I was like, I remember being worried about it. I don't remember where I got my information from, but I'm pretty sure I probably had like a sport coat or like. And then you walk through the doors and you're like, okay, there is people all the way from like sport coat and tie all the way down to shorts and a t-shirt, like at these conferences. And,
right. How long have you been in the industry? You can get away with shorts and a t-shirt.
A little bit, and you know, some of it has to do with just your own upbringing or professional level of what you think of professionalism should look like and things like that, and or yeah, your level of where you are in your career. Like, are you still trying to get tenure, or are you still trying to get into grad school, or are you just don't care at all anymore? So those questions, you know, having a peer, so to speak, to pose those questions to. I'm sure I didn't go to a female professor and ask, what do I wear at GSA? I honestly don't remember who I asked. But I remember worrying about it, like when you're presenting for the first time and things like that. And, you know, so yeah, that's a great story. I think that's like a perfect way to, you know, shine a light on it. Like, yes, there are these like little things, and when you don't have others that look like you to look up to, it makes it more difficult no matter what. So
yeah, it would have been a little more awkward to talk to Nick about it. But he probably would have given me advice.
He would.
he absolutely would have, but
Here it is. Well, no, never mind.
I just want to give that question sort of, I want to give a shout out here in that, you know, my undergraduate career was long and had its ups and downs, as it were.
it was short and smooth compared to mine, my friend.
Yeah, right. But it the mentors I had later on, once I got into, say, geology and realized that I really enjoyed geology, they both women who were like incredible. And the reason I went on to sort of graduate school, Kate Freeman at Penn State, who I worked in her lab, and then I worked under her grad student, Courtney Turek, and they both sort of helped me recognize that, like, you don't have to be perfect in things, and like, if you enjoy what you're doing, keep doing it, and so on and so forth. And it was, you know, I wouldn't be here without their mentorship, and so I owe a lot to them. So that's just my little, not that, you know, just wanted to make sure that I got that out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think that kind of wraps it up for today. So Kelly, once again, thank you very much. Some really awesome insight, and thanks. That was I was really neat podcast. I enjoyed this a lot.
And good questions from the Patreons too, by the way. Thanks for sending those in. That was great.
Yeah.
And anytime you got updates on Wing, just let us know. We'll give you a little plug.
We'll do. So thanks again.
Yep.
So thank you everyone out there for listening. If you want to help out the podcast, you can become a subscriber on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Geology Flannelcast. Come join our other Patreon friends that hang out here, and we have a lot of fun chatting before the shows and post shows, and you get to access some extra material. So you can check that out on patreon.com/Geology Flannelcast. Check out geologyflannelcast.com. We'll have some links from the shows. We're posting the video of the drone footage on Iceland. I'll have that up there on the website. And Kelly, does Wing have a website?
We do. womeningeothermal.com. It's pretty easy to remember.
Cool. Womeningeothermal.com.
Check us out. Become a member, please. That would be great.
We'll have that information also posted on the website as well. So yeah, geologyflannelcast.com. We're on all the social media stuff. Was it Twitter? We're at GeoFlannelcast. Facebook is Geology Flannelcast. And what's the Instagram? Is Instagram Geology Flannelcast too? I don't even know this. Okay.
Yeah, Twitter's the only one that's different. Yeah. So all right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out, listening to the episode, and we will catch you guys next week with another fun and exciting episode of the Geology Flannelcast. The Appalachian Mountains.
Ooh.
We're going with that for next week. Spoiler alert.
You just committed.
Committed. I guess. Here we go. All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. See you later. Bye.